All right, hey guys, Sam back with you. It's Tuesday, December 18th, and we're doing traditionals today. So first up here, or pardon me, second up, as we've already done, Aussie New Zealand, is by request the US dollar to the Swiss. Now, I've got a daily chart up here of the US dollar to the Swiss. Now, the Swiss, we always have a bit of a problem here back to the 2015 surprise rate change that created this. If you were trading back then, you'll remember it. So from this 2015 low, so even if you go out to, I can even pull out here any further here, there's not a great looking Elliott count no matter how you slice this. We had this, you could probably make a case that this is an ABC that went down here, or maybe a WXY. That could be a better looking X. So ABC, X, ABC, shit, doesn't matter really at this point here. So coming off of this, what do we do with it? Well, it was technical, so it wasn't to the tick technical, but we held at the 50 here essentially and have not been able to get up to that longer term target. So even if you go up here, 30, it's not a great looking Elliott count. So what I'm doing here, if I'm working off of this low, can we make some sense off of what's come after that 2015 low? Well, you can make a case that you have a diagonal coming off of this as the one. So off of this pivot. So the extension is in the one. All right, so 5, so 3, not the longest. It's not the shortest though. So 1 is the longest here. So we have a reasonable case here for a leading diagonal in the 1. So we have, okay, so one, what are we looking for in the 2? So we grab a completed 1. Here's the 50 again. It's kind of similar to what it did here. It did not to the tick on the 50, got through, but essentially that 50 held it, so this target's still sitting up here. Now, if that's 1, again, it's not gorgeous, but you've got an A, B, and a C into the proposed 2 wave here, and then coming off of that. Now, again, it's gotten a little squirrely, so I'm going to go, let's go to the 3 hour here, see if we can make sense of it. Now, this is a bit bizarre here, this just straight climb up that we had here from our last pivot was April, and then we just had this grind higher. So you probably make a pretty solid case here. This is an exact 50 that you've got a 1, 2, 3, 4. We finish with, boy, this is an ABC in the 3rd. It's an ugly looking diagonal, but you could make that case here that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is in coming off of this ABC that's here of the proposed 2 low. So if that 2 is in, then we've just gone 1, 2 yet again. So same thing as we would always do, just pulling up to from that dominant swing high. If that's good, so I'm going to take this one off. All right, so we hold the 618. So that's a reasonable spot, and again, it's not gorgeous, but probably make the case that you've got something along these lines here, that you've got an ABC's gone in, the 618 holds it, up we go. Now, again, these are ugly, these are not pretty looking motive waves. So this is bizarre, but most likely the 3rd, 4th, 5th of the 1, 2, and then it looks like, again, we go just into another 1, 2. So even if I go down to the hourly here, you look, so 1, 2, 3, 4, it has a kick, so it's got to be 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, and the 4. There's the 5. So again, it looks like another A, B, C. So it looks like we're just doing a repeat, it's just a series of 1, 2. So it looks like that. Looks like that's done here. So 1, 2, we don't know. 3, 4, and 5, just placeholders. Let's go to green here, and we'll go up a degree. All right. So if we've had, so I'm trying to put all that back together. Let me get back out here. So if it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, well, that's certainly very bullish, right? Dollar to the Swiss. Now we don't know where so this, again, we could have A, B still yet to come. It's not crystal clear. You could make a case that that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, although so you see the symmetry is a bit problematic here. So the 2 relative to the 4, right, you wouldn't script that. So 1, 2, 3, A, B, C into the 4. Looks like it might be technical here. So if that's our 2, All right, so here's the always still to this day surprises me. Okay, so here's a swing high. If this is 1, 2, 3, here's the 50. We get the algo to the tick. So likely something has completed here. So if that's a completed A with more complexity, so allowing for the right, you can see this, the symmetry is a little problematic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you've got an A wave that looks like that. So you see the problem there. It's not you certainly wouldn't choose that if you were looking for a trade. So then you got to look at it and say, well, wait a minute, maybe the A is here and then this is the B, and now we're just in a 1, 2 heading lower. Very hard to, you could get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C. That may be the better count here. So now looking at it, if we pull from the swing high, then we have the potential now. So this is, so let's think of it this way. So this is A. Now we've got, so it's not as pretty in terms of the pivot. If dominant to dominant, A, B, C, we don't quite make the 50. So is it front runs, right? Did they just use something lower? We never really know. Boy, how do you, that's tick to tick, right? So that could well be what they use, but we don't know. We just, all we can do is kind of do our best estimate as to, well, we know that they would have been teed up to go from the dominant. So we don't get there. So you kind of got to look and say, well, could they have used that? Well, if they did, does that change the count any? Not really. So A, B, so potentially you can see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you've got a candidate here for this B to go in as a 1. That's a deep 2. But 3, 4, and 5 all still yet to come. Let's get that, put it in blue, and we'll go to, bear with me, we'll go submicro. Okay, so that's not out of the question here. So if that's A, B, C, let's get that in yellow. So 1, 2, I know, it's a deep 2. So you're a little bit unsure here because it could be either, although I think I prefer this as the A wave, A, B, C, because the subdivision is better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, it's not, again, it's not how you would script it if you were looking for trades that you would be really confident in. So this is a little unclear here. Now you have the other factor here, that anything tied to the dollar is likely to be highly volatile tomorrow, as we looked at this in the last video. So don't forget, so this is always a good place to come check Forex Factory, kind of the default standard here. So we can look tomorrow, we've got the Fed announcement, right? So what are they doing with rates? So you know the dollar is going to be anything tied to the dollar, all of FX is going to be jumpy tomorrow. So now I gotta remember where it is. So this here, I certainly wouldn't be putting on anything new going into a Fed decision. Not that they're anticipating a lot of surprise, but if there were a surprise, the volatility here will be extreme. So I wouldn't be looking to enter a trade here with that report, you know, less than 24 hours away. What I'd be looking for is more clarity based on how the market reacts to it. So that looks like there's a fairly good case here for this one wave to be in. Here on a 3-hour. If this is 1, 2, again, we haven't quite made the 50 here. So, right, so potentially now, if this pushes down, then we can get better read on where we are in the count. So if this is the 1 and this is going to go, whether we give WXY or ABC or ABC 1, 2, it's just there's no way to really know here. And with that news coming tomorrow, I think it's just a smarter way to approach it, to let that news hit the market, see how we respond, because we could go either way here. There's just no clarity in terms of where you are in the count. So much as I like to give you a trade, I just don't think it's there yet. But wait 24 hours, and there certainly could be more tells here. So if we blast off higher, so if we're heading this way, then the assumption is the 2 is in. If we're heading down, then it looks like the correction is still underway from this swing pivot. So we've got a lot of downside. There's a lot of room for this to go down and still hold within an internal retracement. So even here on a 3-hour, if this, I think it would be easier to resolve if we come down here and we're looking for the 2 at the golden zone, something along those lines. If we can get this, if that's going to finish, so then you'd be looking for it. So then it would change the count. So you'd be looking for this in this fashion. So the assumption would be A, B, C into the B, and then this could be 1, 2. Well, there's a couple of different ways this could go. So if this is, if the C is in, it's, boy, so you'd have to do it. There's just no way, a better way to do it. So if that's A, B, C, you'd have to have 1, 2. So this would have to be the C here. So you'd have to do it this way. Oh, Jesus, now I'm losing my spot here. Okay, so one possibility, A, B, C is in. Now we're going 1, 2, and we're going up. If the ABC is not done, then we got to do it this way. Then this potentially is the A, this is the B, and the C is down here. All right, so A with more complexity in that A, and then ABC into the B. Right, I think this is that doesn't fit as well, although we have this, obviously we've got all this resistance here that the market can't seem to get through. So, God damn it, come here. So if we can get through that tomorrow, that's a bit of a tell. So ideally what you'd see is if we're going to get through that, come back, retest it, and then you're off and rolling. So then the idea that this was a 1, 2 solidifies, and now you're in the third. You're in the third. Well, let's look at, so 1, 2, but this is a 2, so you'd be in, so that's 2. So this would be 1, 2, 1, 2. You'd be in the third of the first of the third. Yeah, boy, that's hard to keep track of. So that's where you got to come back out, and you got to say, wait a minute, okay, let's get out to an 8-hour. Where am I in this count? If this is a 2, and this is 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 still yet to come. So this potentially now very bullish. If this holds as a 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, lot of upside here. So you can see some of these bigger targets here are going to be way up here. Right? If any, well, I guess we got to change that color. Let's get that and go back to white. So if this is 1, 2, 1, 2, well, are we going to get to the 3 off of this? We're going to get to this 3. So this would have to be even higher, and that would have to go up a degree. So we'd go to minuet. All right, so then it would be 1, 2. We're trying to get this third. So either we're launching from here, or we've already hit the C, and we're still, either way, we're after the same target. It's just where are we launching from? The 618, or are we going to be in between here if that's the C? So ideally, you'd want to see it come down one more time to get better clarity on that, knowing that you're looking for that C. So tomorrow potentially is there to give you that push down to set up the 1, 2, 1, 2. Of course, you'll have median lines here to work with because we've got 3 good-looking pivots. So this will be in play. All right, now so this corner pocket has already been realized. We've already got the 50 in play there. So that's from this, what was that? It wasn't golden, but it was in between. So from that swing high here, so we're not quite a golden, but we do get a corner pocket. So there's your 80%, all right? Not many where you don't see it. All right, 80%, right? We get it. So you make a case there, but you clearly get it there. So you've got, boom, that's done. So I would keep both on. Now, after tomorrow, if this has another leg down, of course, you just draw them the same way. So you'd do the same thing. Trading view is a little problematic for me today. Okay, so you might get, so there would be your golden. All right, so then now you're set up. If we get that, right now that's a big if. If we get this, Jesus, trading view, come on. If we get this pushed down, then that may not be able to get there in that timeline. So what do we got there? So that's possible. February 19th. So if the news tomorrow pushes us down, you're setting up the 2 to push into the 3. Not that that's necessarily the pivot of the third. So we could be going up here. Right? That's the third we're after. Right? So if we're going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, then you're trying to get the third of the third. Yeah, I know, right? So 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's see how we respond. So this is the key pivot right down here, right? As long as this holds, this stays internal. So I would get through the news, and that's going to give us some tells as to where we are in the count and whether or not this needs to come down. This is the preferred path, in my view, to come down here, get more clarity here that this is a 1, 2. If we hold here technically, then the long side is where I'd be looking. Okay, guys. Probably give us enough to work with here. So I always check, right? It's just word of the wise. Always check the report schedule before you consider entering into an FX trade. Right, likely to be some volatility tomorrow, and if there's not, that's all right. If it's mild, we get exactly what's anticipated, and the market doesn't respond. Well, then that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just you got to dig down. Well, here I'm on an 8-hour, so maybe you go down to an hourly and see if you can get the count to work here. So nothing says we have to go to the 618. We could certainly pivot at the 50. So one to be watching. I'd certainly have my radar on this, so I'd have some alerts to be. So note here we've got a little bit of. This structure might be something to look for. So something like this, and no matter whether you draw it off of the pivots or you do something more like this to get both of them in there, then you set that up that way. I'd want to be alerted when we start approaching this. So break of the 50 or tap of the 50, I'd want to be alerted to that based on how the market responds to the news tomorrow. And then if we're going to drive down here towards this, well, I'd be looking long and hard to see if we can get a base here to work from. All right, that's pretty much what I see. Certainly we've got a juicy target sitting right there. Okay, guys. All right, with that, I'll wrap it for today. And well, you know how to get a hold of us. Links for all of our info and membership, anything you need, is directly underneath this video. All right, guys. Talk to you later.